I never imagined I would find myself writing something like this, but here I am. I feel like I owe Dyson a strange kind of thanks, because updating the filter on our bedroom fan is what accidentally uncovered the truth about my wife's affair. She's 49, I'm her husband of 17 years, and she's been carrying on with another man for about a year and a half. Our marriage, at least from my perspective, was solid. We'd had the usual bumps, but nothing major. We didn't have children together, but I helped raise her 2 daughters from her first marriage, now 28 and 23. For years, I thought our connection was strong. We had long talks about work, life, sex, and philosophy, and I believed we were open with each other. Our sex life was passionate and regular, we both stayed in good shape, and we lived what seemed like a healthy lifestyle. I work in medicine and have been taking on extra shifts these past few months. She works in legal consulting, and since the pandemic changes, she's been working from home more often, which created some distance. Still, on our days off, we were close, and I didn't think anything was wrong. Last night, I changed the filter on the Dyson fan in our room. I needed to reset the alert on the app, but my phone was charging by the door, so I asked to use hers. That's when I noticed she had a new pattern lock, which felt odd but not suspicious enough to press. As I searched for the app, a Snapchat notification popped up. The preview read, "I'll bring the special toy." My heart sank. I just sat there, staring at the fan, unable to process what I had seen. When she asked what was wrong, I mumbled something about checking the router info for the fan and tried to play it off. But inside, I already knew. She has these quarterly out-of-town meetings that keep her gone for several days, and suddenly, everything made sense. I've read plenty of stories online over the years, but I never thought I'd be the one living them. After she went to bed, I couldn't sleep. I sat up, numb and sick, until I finally decided to check further. She had logged into Facebook on my Chromebook, and from there I found my way into her Verizon messaging history. What I discovered floored me. More than 15,000 messages between her and him dating back to last February. There were memes, flirty texts, sexual pictures, and even explicit videos. About 3 months ago, they stopped using Verizon messages, switching instead to Snapchat, which explained the notification I saw. She's been sexting him while lying in bed next to me, rubbing my back while I fell asleep. The man is younger than us, married with 3 small children, and works with her. I've met him twice. I even shook his hand. I've been pacing through the house I built with my own hands, trying to make sense of it all. What I feel is mostly rage, but beneath that is heartbreak I can barely describe. In her chats, I saw her mocking my insecurities, saying she loved him, and telling him things she never said to me. They haven't made long-term plans together, which tells me it's mostly sexual. That almost makes it worse. It feels like she's burning down our life together for the sake of thrills. She knows cheating is the one line I would never forgive. She knows it would end us. Yet here we are. Normally, when she leaves for these trips, I drive her to the airport and kiss her goodbye. I don't even know if I can look at her the same way now. I've already called a close friend, someone who's been through divorce before, and he pointed me toward a very aggressive lawyer. I paid extra to get in today. I've started saving everything I can find, screenshots, texts, pictures. I want to have evidence locked down. Part of me wants to follow her on this trip. I've already made myself the emergency contact on her hotel booking, which means I could get a key without her knowing. I could sit in that room and watch her messages come in as it happens, then hand her the printouts and end it right there. If the divorce papers could be ready by then, I'd serve her on the spot. I've also debated sending everything to his wife. She accepted my friend request, and I know she deserves the truth. But I also don't want to act rashly and lose the advantage of timing. Right now, all I feel is fury and betrayal. The irony isn't lost on me. Our marriage started with so much openness, love, and laughter. I thought I had found my partner for life. Now, thanks to a fan filter update, I see that what I had was an illusion, that I had this whole plan in my head. I wanted to get a spare key to her hotel room, slip inside, and leave a package behind. Inside, I'd put my wedding ring, a quiet symbol of what she'd destroyed. Then I'd go sit at the bar, order a drink, and watch as my phone lit up in chaos. My plan went further. I thought about calling her affair partner, telling him to meet me downstairs, and while he sat there smug, I'd let him know that the same package had already been mailed to his house, addressed to his wife, with a message waiting on Facebook that I'd send right there in front of him. It sounded satisfying in my head, but at the same time, it felt hollow, petty even. A weak attempt to claw back some dignity from the wreckage. The truth is, I wanted to scream, to rage until my throat was raw, but I felt powerless. That morning, all I'd managed was a perfunctory kiss on her cheek before she left, unable to even look her in the eyes. Somehow, I had to get through the weekend, but the thought of facing her turned my stomach. I kept asking myself, was this bitter, hate-filled revenge worth it? I didn't want reconciliation. I didn't want apologies. I just wanted her to hurt like I was hurting. The betrayal cut so deeply because cheating isn't a single mistake. It's 1,000 little choices, each one a step further. Each one a point where she could have stopped but didn't. By the time it's complete, there's no way back. I even found her little secret, a high-end, app-controlled toy hidden in her luggage, not in our usual box of shared things but tucked away as if meant for someone else. That discovery was like the final nail. Later, I met with a lawyer. She surprised me by being not only professional, but genuinely compassionate. She told me her role was to fight for my future, and my responsibility was to give her the full truth and not make her job harder. I believed her. Afterward, I stopped at Kinko's to print the evidence. Hundreds of pages of messages, all in color. It cost me over $500, but I wanted every detail to be crystal clear. The guy running the printer, Chris, saw what was coming out and asked me about it. I told him the truth. He didn't judge, just shook my hand and apologized. I went home, crashed for a few hours, and when she came back that evening, I remembered what the lawyer had said. Forget the dramatic hotel bar scene. That's for movies. Real life isn't like that. Real life is paperwork, courtrooms, and signatures. She'd explained the options. A contested divorce or mediation. Either way, I had to officially notify my wife that I had counsel and was moving forward. When she got home, I asked her if there was anything she wanted to come clean about. She brushed it off, said there was nothing to talk about except the election. She then asked why I seemed off. I wanted to cry, but I was beyond tears by then. So instead, I asked her directly why she had a remote control vibrator in her luggage. The reaction was instant. Her face drained of color, her breathing went shallow, sweat broke out on her forehead. That panic told me more than words ever could. I pressed further. Who had the code? Who controlled the app? She stumbled over excuses. Then the tears began. That's when I laid out the files. 3 thick folders, every file exchanged in black and white. I asked her if his wife had access to the toy as well. She begged for time to explain. I told her she had 5 minutes. Of course she couldn't. There's no excuse for that kind of betrayal. I told her plainly that my attorney had advised me to make my position clear. Either she left, or I would make sure her family, her daughters, her colleagues, everyone, knew what she'd done. She shouted that it was her house too. I didn't yell back. I simply said that maybe so, but the truth was going to come out regardless. She'd be at her work trip anyway, so she'd have to find somewhere else when she returned. I then pulled up Facebook and showed her the affair partner's wife. I asked, "Do you want to tell her, or should I?" My wife wept, begged, said it wasn't supposed to go this far, said she loved me. But I wasn't interested in her excuses. I sent the woman a message with the full file attached, prefaced with an apology and brief explanation. Then, almost theatrically, I flipped through the stack of messages and began reading them aloud to her. I just wish we could spend the day attached to each other, just you inside me. Her sobs filled the room as I read the words that had broken our life apart. She still tried to plead, claiming our marriage could withstand this, that we could recover. I told her there was no recovering. She had destroyed it. She had ended it. 17 years erased in her choice to betray. I'm still debating whether to report it to HR at her job. She doesn't get to walk away from this untouched. Everyone will know. She can live with the truth she created. Now the house is quiet, except for her muffled crying from another room. I told her not to return after her conference. I've started sending out friend requests, preparing to send the truth to everyone in our circle, so the narrative can't be twisted. Tomorrow I'll call the girls, hers, but ones I raised like my own. They're grown women now, 28 and 23. But I don't know how to tell them. Right now, I feel strange, like two extremes colliding. A rush of power and clarity, almost elation, mixed with crushing despair. My hands shake. My chest feels hollow. Part of me wants to disappear. But another part of me is determined to stand firm and burn down the lie she built. I've got therapy lined up next week. For now, I just sit here in the quiet, broken but resolute, knowing there's no going back. To clear up one point right away. People were right when they said I misunderstood how Snapchat works. The app one saw running in the background on her phone wasn't Snapchat at all. It was WhatsApp. Doesn't really matter to me though, the effect was the same. And I still need to thank Dyson, both for their app and for the fan my brother-in-law gave me for Christmas, because without that I might never have uncovered what I did. Let me back up and give you a clearer picture, because my first attempt at writing about this felt scattered. Pretty much how my mind was at the time. I went to college in Las Vegas in the mid-90s and graduated in '99. Those years were wild, formative, and set the tone for how I saw relationships. Back then, I swore off marriage and kids entirely. Marriage seemed outdated to me, something that stripped away your freedom, and children were never something I wanted. After graduation, I built a strong career in cardiovascular intensive care nursing. In 2001, I returned to Texas, aiming higher. I started my master's degree as a nurse practitioner specializing in cardiovascular surgery. Along the way, I even began preparing for medical school, shifting coursework to fit the prerequisites. That's when I met the woman who would eventually become my wife. She was short, curvy, red-haired, and full of fire. We met during a code. Intense circumstances matched by the instant connection we had. Things moved fast. We were saying I love you in just 3 months. She already had 2 daughters. I'd been firm about wanting to live child-free, but she'd been divorced a couple of years and was navigating her own rough on-again, off-again situation. We dated for about 2 years before she gradually introduced me to her girls, then 11 and 6. I still remember the night she sat me down. It wasn't dramatic, but heartfelt. She told me straight what she needed in a partner. We'd been living together about 8 months, had each other listed as emergency contacts, and she said it was time I figured out if I was in this for real. She didn't push. She just laid it out. Either marriage, or we'd go our separate ways eventually. At that exact time, I got my acceptance letter to medical school 2 hours away. I was elated and devastated at once. I'd just turned 26, and here was this huge goal within reach. But the thought of losing her and the girls ate at me. The reality of 7 or more years of school, debt, residency, and little to no income loomed over me. I thought about what that sacrifice would do to us, and in the end, I turned it down. I chose instead to go back and complete a master's in nursing administration. We married in July 2003, in a small ceremony with just close family and friends. My parents loved her daughters dearly, but they never truly warmed to my wife. When I told them just this Monday about everything unraveling, about how the girls might no longer be as present in their lives, my parents admitted something that stung. They said they had always considered her damaged goods. Because she had been divorced, because I had compromised what I once stood firm on. And honestly, as much as it hurt to hear, I couldn't shake the truth in their words. Career-wise, things had gone well. I never wanted management, I wanted to remain hands-on. The hospital offered me the chance to certify an ECMO and earn perfusionist credentials. It was competitive, but I got in. For the past 11 years, I've been immersed in that field, difficult, rewarding, and heartbreaking all at once. My wife, on the other hand, left floor nursing about 5 years ago. She wanted steadier hours and less patient drama. So she took a job through a friend at a medical legal consultancy. Now she reviews patient charts and organizes data for legal cases. That sets the stage. By Saturday morning, 2 days after discovery, I was in pieces. I'd hardly slept, and dark thoughts ran through my head. Anger, grief, violence, even imagining endings for myself. I was in the kitchen making eggs and toast when she walked in, still half asleep, and asked if I'd make her some too. I threw the food straight into the trash right in front of her. Then I loaded my record player and blasted the music of my youth so loudly, she couldn't start a conversation. Immature? Sure. But it was the only way I could drown her out. I sank into what I now know is called pain shopping. Going through the messages and printouts, reliving every betrayal in order. I can't say I recommend it, though part of me still does. By afternoon, after cycling through Black Flag and Danzig, I'd moved on to breakup songs from Chris Isaak and Ray LaMontagna. That's when she approached me again, not apologetic this time but almost indignant. She wanted to know why I had bothered telling the other man's wife. I looked at her longer than was comfortable, trying to process her audacity. Then I told her plainly, at least that woman deserved the truth. At least she should get the chance to decide for herself, with her eyes open, rather than spending her life making compromises for someone selfish enough to betray her. My message landed. The fallout on that end hasn't been pretty, and I take a strange kind of grim satisfaction in that. She sat down on the couch, her bravado gone, tears streaming down her face. I told her I was past crying, that I was too numb to even feel it anymore. My tears would come later, once I'd finished doing what needed to be done. With a timid voice, stripped of the anger and arrogance she usually carried, she asked what else I had left to do. I told her plainly, to ruin your life and make you feel the same pain I do now. I asked her to unlock her phone and show me everything if she still had any respect for me, if she had ever truly loved me. She refused, saying that it wouldn't matter, that all I would do was use it against her. I admitted there was a part of me, the part that needs to know every detail, that wanted the full truth. But she stood firm, walked away, and shut herself in the guest bedroom. That was when I found her HR paperwork sitting on the table. I dialed the corporate compliance hotline and left a very detailed message. I reported that she and her affair partner had shared confidential client information, including protected health data, over unsecured channels. I also told them she had been acting as his supervisor on projects while their relationship was ongoing, and that they'd been exchanging pornographic material over company-subsidized phones. All of it blatant violations. I've always thought of myself as calm, rational, and non-confrontational. But this broke something inside me. The rage that came out of me scared me. I didn't know I had it in me. And now I worry. Will it ever stop? To heal, I know I'll eventually need to accept her apology and forgive, but right now I don't know if I'm capable of that. That evening, I kept reaching out to family and friends, letting them know the truth of what had happened. I called a physician friend, asking for an appointment and an STD panel. He asked questions and I answered honestly. Exhaustion caught up with me. My eyes grew heavy by 8. On Sunday, day 3 since discovery, I woke up before dawn and drove 3 hours to see her daughters. The younger is still in college, the older working and more independent. My relationship with them has always been respectful but distant. With the oldest, it has always been more formal, polite, but with an unspoken barrier. You're not my dad. With the younger, things were warmer, but when they were together, that wall always seemed to rise again. I arrived at their condo around 8:45 in the morning, carrying good coffee and pastries. They immediately asked about their mother, worry in their eyes. I didn't soften it. I told them directly what had happened, and that their mother would probably need a place to stay in the next few months. They were disappointed, hurt. I explained I wasn't there to ask them to choose sides. They were adults, and our bond was unique and complicated. If they wanted to cut ties with me, I'd accept it. It would hurt, but it would also be a kind of relief. But I asked that, whatever they chose, they not let it affect their relationship with my parents, their grandparents. They agreed without hesitation, saying they wanted to keep in touch with them. I left a little after 11. On the way home, I stopped at my best friend's place. For the first time in days, I broke down and cried. I had helped raise those girls, tried to fill the gaps their own father left when he moved away and started another family. My best friend saw what the alcohol had been doing to me the past few days, and insisted I stay the night, get real rest. I collapsed at his place, ignoring the countless calls and texts from my wife. Monday, day 4, I drove back home around 8 in the morning. Her Porsche was still in the driveway. For a moment, I thought maybe she had caught a ride to the airport. But no, she was inside, waiting, breakfast on the table. She asked me to eat with her, and I did. She asked how it tasted. I told her it tasted like static. That for the last 5 days, Everything had tasted like bitterness and anger. She had called in sick to work, skipping her quarterly meeting. She tried to tell me how worried she was for me, how much she still loved me. She mentioned that her oldest daughter had called her the day before, disturbed by what she had heard from me. I laughed, but it wasn't a normal laugh. It came out jagged, manic, unsettling even to myself. "Oh, you love me so much? You loved me so much that you carried on an affair for a year and a half behind my back? You loved me so much that you slept with another married man? You loved me so much that you destroyed nearly half of my life." She still hadn't given me any explanation for why she did it, and the lack of a reason made it worse. I went to the liquor cabinet and pulled out the bottle, an 18-year Glenfiddich my grandfather had gifted us when we married. We had saved it as a tradition, taking a small sip every anniversary as a reminder that patience makes things better with time. I took the bottle and finished what was left, a third or so. I didn't offer her any. She didn't deserve it. Then I went to the bedroom and started pulling every picture of us, of her, off the walls. I laid them all out on the kitchen table, a stark reminder of what she had thrown away. By then she had left. Or rather, her lawyer had. The paralegal called me earlier to let me know that the divorce petition was complete and waiting for my signature before it could be filed. Once signed, my soon-to-be ex would be served within 10 business days. I opened it, skimmed through while buzzed on expensive scotch, and electronically signed it without much thought before pressing send. Not long after, I received a message from the affair partner's wife. She thanked me in a strained way, acknowledging that what I had revealed was both devastating and strangely necessary. She made it clear she didn't want to have a conversation with me beyond that, but she felt compelled to share that she had discovered texts and explicit videos on his phone with multiple women, not just my wife. She had already thrown him out of their California home and planned to speak with an attorney. I put on music, poured myself more drinks, and let the alcohol drag me into sleep sometime around 4 in the afternoon. Around 10 that night, I stirred awake when she came home. She noticed the pile of old photos and keepsakes I had tossed aside and immediately broke down, crying and asking me to talk. I only asked her one question: why? All she could manage was that she didn't know. That answer infuriated me. I lashed out, calling her names I hadn't imagined myself saying before. I told her point blank that cheating wasn't some single reckless mistake. It was a chain of deliberate decisions, starting with that first text. Fueled by the liquor, I laughed at her and stripped down, pointing at my own body. I mocked her, telling her she had thrown this away me, for some out-of-shape, pathetic man who couldn't give her anything real. At 6'4" and 200 pounds, with regular running and lifting keeping me strong up until the previous week, I couldn't believe she chose him. I showered, and when I came back, she was in my bed, naked, candles flickering around her. She begged me to sleep with her. I grabbed my phone, turned the camera on, and told her to repeat what she wanted. If my rejection wasn't enough, I wanted proof of her asking. She said it, and I went through with it. But I wasn't gentle. I pushed her into uncomfortable positions, using her body as if she were just an outlet for my rage. I demanded things I knew she wouldn't normally agree to, and I made her beg for them. I recorded it all. When it was over, I felt everything and nothing all at once. Love, hate, desire, and emptiness tangled into something I couldn't even define. We eventually fell asleep together, but when I woke the next morning, hungover and heavy with guilt, I struggled to face my reflection. On Tuesday, 5 days since discovery, I had my first real therapy session. It lasted 2.5 exhausting hours. I didn't realize she had followed me there until I came out and found her waiting. She wanted to know what I was doing. I told her, loudly and through tears, that I was getting therapy because she had destroyed my life, leaving me with nothing but questions and pain. My new therapist saw much of the exchange. In the heat of it, I shouted cruel words at her, even saying I wished she were dead. Inside, the session itself was raw. I broke down about my anger, my sense of emasculation, my fear of what lay ahead. Last week I felt like a whole man, with direction, goals, and a partner to face obstacles with. Now, I felt like a rudderless ship drifting aimlessly, stripped of power and purpose. The therapist began teaching me that the why I craved wasn't one question but many. He suggested I ask her calmly what inside herself gave her permission to betray me in the first place. He explained there were more questions to follow, each peeling back layers of her choices. That stuck with me. I admitted the night before had turned physical, and he strongly advised me to stop. If reconciliation wasn't my goal, then sex would only confuse things and intensify my suffering. He told me to set firm boundaries instead. That hit me hard. I cried, raged, and left drained. She was still outside when I walked out, waiting, begging for me to talk. I ignored her and left. Later, I went to a physician's office for testing. I gave him a condensed version of events. He urged me to stop drinking, to use the sedatives cautiously, and to look after my health. I went home and kept packing my belongings. I'd made up my mind to move out. At work, I requested an urgent meeting. Sitting down with my team at the hospital, I gave my formal 6-week resignation. With how niche my specialty is, it was the least I could offer as courtesy. I told them plainly that my wife's actions had caused such chaos in my life that remaining in my position would only endanger patients, the team, and myself. I also shared that I intended to move far away once this was over. On the way home, I bought groceries. It had been nearly a week since I'd eaten more than scraps of food, surviving mostly on alcohol. My therapist and doctor both told me I needed to take care of myself, so I decided to cook and cut back on the drinking. When I walked in, she was there in the dim living room, drinking wine. She had arranged the photos into neat piles and was staring at them. She was dressed up in one of her old date night dresses, makeup streaked with tears. She rose to hug me, but I pushed her gently aside, made a show of pulling out my phone, and hit record again. She broke down, crying harder. Then she admitted that the affair partner's wife had contacted her and revealed he'd been seeing other women as well. She begged me to give us another chance, but I told her why should I? She hadn't cared enough to think about us when she betrayed me. I told her that I was sorry her lies had finally caught up to her, but I didn't believe she was truly sorry for what she had done to me. She was just upset because she had been caught, and would now have to start her life over. I told her that losing me wasn't what upset her most, it was losing her comfort and security. Any love she once had for me had been thrown away 2 years ago when she chose to go down this path. I kept pressing on, not yelling, not angry, but steady. My hands shook, but it felt like everything was pouring out of me in one rush. It was exhausting, but strangely freeing. When I had said everything I needed to, I unpacked the few groceries I had bought, made myself a small sandwich, and went to bed. She came into the bedroom again. I pulled out my phone, turned on the recorder, and told her what my therapist and I had talked about regarding intimacy. In nearly 17 years together, I couldn't recall ever once refusing her when she wanted sex. I asked her to sleep in the guest room. She refused. I told her then I would take the guest room. The next morning, 6 days after discovery, I woke up to find her curled next to me again. I carefully got out of bed, did some light exercise, and tried to focus on my resume and job applications. There's a chance I could be working in Seattle before the year ends. The hardest part of that would be leaving my parents, who are getting older. They're only a short drive away now, and I'll miss that, but I can't keep living in the same city as her. I don't want the risk of bumping into her. I want to be free, no reminders, no ties, no echoes of the compromises I made for years. The day was gray and rainy, which matched how I felt inside. I met my best friend for an early dinner, gave him the rundown of everything, and we decided not to drink. He tried to make me laugh, but it took effort just to pretend. Inside, I felt hollow. My attorney assured me that moving won't affect the financial outcome. My plan is to use up my PTO until the end of October, then take my share of our liquid savings to start over somewhere else. Still, the emptiness pulls at me, like a dark gravity. I've never once in my life thought about ending things, but lately, fleeting images come to mind of what it would be like if I just weren't here. It scares me. I'm going to tell my therapist about it tomorrow. Meanwhile, she's been going to the library, apparently reading relationship books. I've been reading Chump Lady, and it has been helping me. I overheard a small part of a phone call she got from work. It sounded serious. She has some kind of meeting tomorrow, despite saying she's been sick and lying in bed for days. I'm conflicted. I want to feel something other than this numbness, But what I do feel toward her is only anger and resentment. The only intimacy I even think about with her now is cruel, punishing. Earlier this week, when I gave in to that impulse, it almost felt like a high. But afterward, I crashed hard. I was angry at myself. I told her directly, while recording, that any sexual contact between us didn't mean reconciliation. I made it clear this wasn't some hidden signal that I wanted her back. I told her it was probably just hysterical bonding, desperate, unhealthy, and temporary. I warned her that I wouldn't be tender or concerned with her feelings, that I wasn't doing it for closeness, but out of something darker. She teared up, nodded, and whispered that she deserved it. Then she turned over silently, accepting it. The next morning, day 7, I woke to her spooning me. I stayed still for a while, listening to her breathing shift, knowing she was awake and staring at me. With my back turned, I asked about her meeting. She said it was with HR, and would probably go badly. I simply replied, "Yep." Then she asked what she could do to make things right, to make us equal again. I told her nothing. Her next offer was an open marriage where she'd stay faithful to me. But I could do whatever I wanted. That I gave a small laugh and told her no. I don't trust her anymore. She nodded and said that was fair. We were having this talk with my back turned to her. It was easier that way. Looking at her face only made me angry. I asked her what I had done in our marriage that left her so unhappy she chose to betray me. She said I hadn't done anything wrong, that I had been more than great. I laughed again bitterly, and said clearly that hadn't been enough. She admitted it had been about the thrill, that she got caught up in the excitement and the rush. She didn't realize until too late that if anything went wrong, everyone would be devastated. When I confronted her, she said it felt like both a relief and a crushing pain at the same time. The next morning I made us breakfast. Later, at my therapist's office, I explained my plans for work and the applications I had already submitted. I told him everything, about my wife, the affair, and even the suicidal thoughts I had wrestled with. We went through the process again of what those thoughts meant and how to handle them. He wasn't judgmental, just careful to make sure I slowed down whenever I got lost or overwhelmed. That session lasted nearly 2 hours, and afterward I felt a strange calm, a numb stillness, like nothing really mattered except that things simply were. When I got home, she was sitting in the living room. She told me she'd been fired, something about breaching client protocols and mishandling data. I just said, "That's too bad." Then I exercised and later cooked us a good dinner. She joined me though we barely spoke. Afterward, she told me that her affair partner had also been fired. I said good. She added that she hadn't spoken to him in 5 days. I asked why, since they were both free now, why didn't she just run off with her soulmate and enjoy her new life? She told me she only wanted me. I answered that she already had all of me, and it still wasn't enough. I reminded her that in nearly 20 years of being with her, I had countless opportunities to cheat or fall for someone else. But I never once crossed that line. I stayed faithful. And now, after everything, I was left bitter and angry because of the sacrifices I had made for us. She asked what sacrifices I meant, so I laid them out. I once wanted to go to medical school, but I gave it up because I thought marrying her and being stable was more important. I never wanted children, but she came with kids, and I took them in as my own without complaint. I told her those were compromises I made out of love for her. But now, I realize I misplaced both my trust and my love. If I could go back in time, I would tell my 26-year-old self to walk away from her. She asked again what she could do to bring us back together. I told her she couldn't, because I would never compromise myself for her again. That meant there could never be a healthy relationship between us. I told her bluntly that I would never love her again. At best, she could only be something physical, but she wouldn't matter in my plans, my future, or my thoughts. Just a week ago, she had been the first person I thought of every morning, and the last person on my mind at night. Now just thinking about her hurts too much. I told her I was going to walk away from this, because staying only reminded me of things I would rather forget. I'm thankful for the people who've listened to me and shared their own painful experiences. It's helped more than I thought it could. But still, I keep replaying everything in my head, and I don't want to anymore. I feel like I'll never be sure of anything with her again. I've committed to biweekly therapy sessions for the next 4 years, and I'll keep going. This whole thing has torn me apart. I know I'm in turmoil, and the suffering has been overwhelming, but I'm trying to fight through it. I've been told to stay away from destructive coping, like the drinking and the starving myself, and focus on finding peace. More than anything, I know that's what I need now, peace.